Hi, welcome to Healing You with Gloria and Gail. And last time we said we were going to be exploring what happens when we have resistance, and we're actually wanting to step into our heart, our creative awakening heart. And we were also exploring, what happens when we have trauma or when we didn't know we had trauma. And those actually kind of go together. So I'm wondering, Gail, if we might use your example to illustrate for our viewers what this could look like, or what happens with this, if you are open to sharing a little bit more of your experience.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Gloria. Because I find it's fascinating, just so fascinating, and seeing it now with what I've learned, to see how we're so imprinted with this.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice. It just, we're unconscious. It's just happening and just rolling along with our life as we grow up. But when I mentioned about I didn't think I had trauma as a child. I didn't have parents that were, alcoholics or beating me up and things like that. That wasn't happening, because that's kind of what I thought trauma was. It had to be in that classification. And so I spent so much time, I see now, protecting my parents, like protecting that I didn't want to see this and I didn't want to admit it. It's so layered in with wanting to protect them and protect me, to be a good girl.
Yeah. So what were you protecting them from?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think from truth.
Oh.
And seeing that it was all part of being in the culture, and certainly the culture for them growing up. There was the saying, children should be seen but not heard. There was definitely a lot of rules that you needed to follow in order to be accepted, in order to belong. And there seems to be this overarching unconsciousness that we all are in. And
born into it. Yes. And what I'm hearing, could I reflect a little bit of what I'm hearing? So what I'm hearing is that you discovered in your awakening, you recognized that as a little girl, you took responsibility for your parents' well-being. And by taking in all of these rules and these requirements that the culture set up, it was the structure of your life. That you took responsibility to attend to all of that and really pay attention to all of that, and to show up the way you needed to show up in order to protect mom and dad. I mean, because there's a great love there that I'm hearing.
I was just, you took, exactly. It was, it's out of love. You're little, you don't have any control over what's happening, but you also don't understand what's happening. So all you just have an immense love, childhood love. So you do what you can do to protect your parents that you love, and protect yourself too. And you can also enter in with siblings, and it's multi-layered. It could be generations past that are coming, influences from that coming forward. It's so interesting, and the more that I've learned about it, the more it's been freeing for me, and seeing that this isn't about making them bad or wrong. It is just what is.
It's recognizing the patterns that actually reveal themselves, that there are patterns over time that you can begin to really recognize is actually running. So there's a lot of energy there then. So
Oh,
there's,
gosh, yes. Yeah.
yeah, it can become very consuming. And it can even become compulsive. I mean, it becomes just the way it is. And this pattern can play itself out not only when in your home with your parents and with your siblings, but then as you get older and then you go to school and you have instruction. I mean, you went into a very high performance life.
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. With being a high level athlete, international athlete, that demanded a lot of training and a lot of hours, a lot of discipline and regiment.
Yeah.
But it was tied in with, finding my place that was going to work in the family, which, that's often talked about. But the deeper layers of the felt sense of belonging and being accepted and being recognized was huge. And I didn't, see that as driving me as then as I do now in what I've learned.
And so this piece that we wanted to highlight today, and thank you for naming those parts of your experience, because they're really important to catch. But this, as you began to awaken, and you would recognize these patterns that you didn't know were there, how did the resistance show up for you? Or how does it? Because there's times that, I mean, even, being very transparent myself, I still have these patterns as well. And so there are times that I go down that slippery slope right into my patterns and they show up very large and I can recognize them. And then there's a resistance to even owning that. So what's it like for you as you were first starting out on this journey? How did the resistance show up?
Well, I think one that showed up and was a little bit easier to, well, maybe not easier, but the one about like not wanting to see that there was anything wrong in my childhood.
Oh,
That was one resistance.
so kind of denial. Yeah,
Pardon me?
there's a denial. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, a denial of just not wanting to see it, which I didn't know I was doing.
It was unconscious.
And so, and when I too can dip in it too, I think for me, what it's connected to is it's too painful to look at. And so it's a protective piece that comes in with the denial, with the covering up, with not wanting to look at the truth. And it's related to being a painful thing to do because it's so different from what you thought it was. But even a bigger piece is that you, well, for me, me, having had been so alone with looking at something like this. So
Yeah, believing you're all alone. So that's even another belief, a belief that you're all alone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also acknowledgement that of how many years that there wasn't anyone to talk to about this because you didn't even know about it. There is an aloneness that's very deeply embodied.
Yes. And then, the other beliefs, which, we would be talking about in the course, but other beliefs of not being good enough. That was a big one for me as well. But through this work of awakening and seeing these beliefs and being able to go, oh, well, they don't make me bad. Again, they don't make me wrong. They are there. And now I can look at them now and say, oh, yes, this is here. And it could continue operating.
Yeah.
With the awakening, I can then move into making different choices.
Yeah, you can be empowered. And so that's the other piece then. So recognizing the pattern, recognizing the fear, recognizing the energy and how it feels and how strong it is. And not to give everything away, but then when you step out of that and you step into your heart, what do you notice there? I mean, you say you're able to, from that space, recognize and not shame, not blame.
Yes, exactly. Like be there in my heart for me, in my innocence
Yeah.
as a child that didn't have that opportunity to really be celebrated, to grow, or to stay
Yeah.
present. Yes.
Yeah. And that right there, I will give away a little bit here, but in this, the course Divine Pathways, that we're actually going to be opening that up again in September. There's a process that we get to invite people into where they get to step into their innocence. And it's a guided visualization that's very powerful to experience. And it's a place that we set up the container that we are doing this, that this work is in service of our higher self and of the world, of others. And yeah, it kind of brings us right back to our passion of how we really have the heart desire for others to get to experience this in their own unique ways. Because, you know, just as you and I have had awakening to recognizing these patterns that have just been operating us for years. And we would have fear, or we'd have anger, or we'd have shame, or we'd have guilt. I mean, there's a wide spectrum of emotions that come up for all humans.
Yes.
But to have a container that can hold that and can acknowledge that, that can accompany us through that in order to discover something different.
And to really recognize, accept, and acknowledge all of those emotions, like they're all normal.
Everyone has them.
Yeah, it's part of being human. And there's not any rules about what you can have and what you can't have.
Yeah.
They're all messages. They're all messages coming to us of something we need to awaken to.
Yeah, that's a great place to pivot. I loved how you said this, because that actually lets us see that there's two streams of information that's constantly coming into us. And so I'm going to invite our viewers to join us to learn more about that the next time that we get together. But what I love about what we're doing here, Gail, is we're following our heart and we're having a conversation that's very transparent and true and honest. And then we're seeing where the path opens up for us to continue the conversation next time.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Gloria. It's so wonderful to share this with you.
It is delightful. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye now.